This conference will now be recorded.
Good morning, everyone. So in our last class, we have successfully pulled the backend data into our front-end application. So let us just run this application and see what we have done so far. Yep. So we got the data. So this is the two records that we have in the backend, Rahul and Venki, and we successfully got both the records into the front-end SAP UI5 application. By the way, how we got this? So we got this with the three steps. The first one is we created the destination in SAP Business Technology Platform Cockpit. So with that, your BTP came to know about the SAP Gateway system. And second thing, we added the OData service to this project by going to the manifest.json, and there is an option Open Service Manager, and using this option, we added the OData service. And when you add the OData service, in the manifest.json, there is a data sources section that gets created automatically, and your OData service details will be added. And at the bottom, under the model section, a OData model will be created without any name. You can see there is no name for the OData model. So no name is also a name. Okay, that is called empty name. And this particular OData model is pointing to the data source ZB70 EMP service. So nothing but the OData model is pointing to our base OData service URL. Okay. So after that, we went to the view and we created the table UI element. In the table UI element, there is a items binding, and the items binding syntax is model name arrow mark slash entity set name. So let me write down this. I think we already have this one here. So you can see the syntax of items binding. Items is the subpart of the table, which is nothing but aggregation. Now the items binding syntax is the OData model name arrow mark slash entity set name. Now when this get executed, it checks the OData model name. There is no OData model name. So no OData model is also a model. Okay, so there is a OData model which is defined without any name. So this particular no name will be replaced with this base OData service URL because OData model is pointing to the base OData service URL. And after that, slash entity set name will be replaced with slash employee set, and this URL will hit the backend. When this URL hits the backend, it points to the two records. So it points to two records. The moment the items binding pointing to more than one record, this particular items tag start behaving like a loop. It starts behaving like a loop. So it enters the loop and executes the column list item. Column list item means an empty row of the table. So this is an empty row of the table, and it places the cells under each column, and it places these two values in the respective columns. So employee ID will be replaced with 100001 and name will be replaced with Rahul. And after that, when the ending tag gets executed, ending tag of the items get executed, again it comes to the starting tag to check are there any more records. Yes, there is one more record, so the loop goes on and it again creates another column list item, nothing but another row, and inside that again it places the cells and the values respectively. So this is how your table UI element works. So we achieved this one by using the first approach, that is binding approach. So here the backend data directly came to the UI element here by using the binding concept. However, there is another approach to pull the backend data into the front end. So now let us understand that approach in today's class. Now I'm going to draw one diagram. So let's assume this is your backend system. Backend system. So this is where you have written your OData project and the logic. So you see GW and this query operation. So select star from ZB, what is it, 70 underscore employees. And you exposed your business logic through a OData service. So this is your SAP gateway system. And this is your OData service. Now let's come to the UI layer. So this is our SAP UI file layer. Now in the SAP UI file layer, we created this table, and inside the table we pulled out the backend data. So how did we pull the backend data? So we pulled the backend data through the items binding. All right, so let me just copy this items binding. Yeah. Now this items binding, it is indirectly pointing to this particular URL, and this URL is hitting this OData service, and in turn it calls this select query, and in return it sends the data, and in return it sends the data. So this is the data flow, so which is happening directly to the table. Okay, right. Now there is a second approach, and the second approach is by using the OData model API and also a combination of JSON model. So this is the approach number 2. So manual OData service calling. So manual OData service calling using OData model API methods, and store the data in a JSON model and point the table to the JSON model. Now I will explain this entire story, okay? But on the other day, so we were discussing the models in SAP UI file. So if you remember, yeah. So if you remember, I was talking about the models in SAP UI file. So let me write that again. To handle the data in SAP UI file layer, there are totally 4 models. So this is what we discussed, right? So models in SAP UI. The first model is the OData model. So this is what we discussed in yesterday's class, in the last class. The next one is JSON model, and the third one is XML model, and fourth one is resource model. So this is a must and should interview question, guys. People will definitely ask you what are the models in SAP UI file. Okay, so you need to tell OData model, JSON model, XML model, and resource model. So out of this, XML model is not at all used in real time. So because of its, we don't get such a scenario. So leave it about, just theoretically you can say all the four models, and nobody will ask you XML model. Okay, that's for sure. And resource model is for handling I18N, that is internationalization, for handling internationalization. So you can ignore this. We have a separate class on the resource model, so at the time you will understand. And OData model and JSON model, I can say these two are the main models to handle the data in the front end. We already know the definition of the OData model. So OData model is an object. It's an object, and what it can do, it's an object that points to the base OData service URL and can call and can uh, call the OData service. So it can call the OData service and hit the CRUD queue operations. CRUD queue operations that you have written in the backend. So this is what the OData model can do. So just to summarize, OData model is an object, and what this object will do? This object points to the base OData service URL, and by pointing to the base OData service URL, it can call the OData service, so which in turn in the backend calls the CRUD queue operations, create, read, update, delete, query operations. Okay. Now let us see the definition of JSON model. So why we are looking at the JSON model? Because in the second approach for pulling the backend data into the front end, in the second approach, so we are going to use this JSON model. Now let us see the definition of the JSON model. A JSON model is also an object, but this object will not point to the OData service URL. Okay, so this is an object which is a memory in the UI file layer. It is just a memory. Object means what? Memory. It's just a memory, runtime memory kind of thing. So it's an object which is a memory in the UI file layer. That's all. That's all. It's just a empty memory. For your understanding, you just assume this particular JSON model like an empty bag. You just assume this JSON model like an empty bag. You have an empty bag in the front end SAP UI file layer. Okay. Now, what you will do with this bag? This bag can hold data. This bag can hold the data, but the only condition is, so let me write down here. So this bag can contain data. It can hold the data. Okay. It can hold the data, but the only condition is this data must be present in JSON format. Now, what is this JSON format? I will explain. Don't worry. Okay. So, what is this JSON format? You don't worry at this moment. First, you need to understand what is the JSON model. Okay. I hope this is clear, guys. So, JSON model is an object. An object means it's a memory, and this memory is in your UI file layer. Okay. And those people who cannot assume it like a memory, so you assume it like a empty bag. You have a bag and the bag is empty, and it can hold the data. This empty bag can hold the data. It has the capacity to hold the data. Okay. Now in the second approach, what we do, we create this empty bag. I'm calling this bag as my JSON model. So for the JSON model also we need to give some name. So I will give the name as EMP model. EMP model. So I'm just giving some name, and this is your JSON model. Okay, let me write down. This is JSON model. EMP model, and I'm calling this as Json model. Okay, right. Now listen. The OData model, this OData model object has a convenient API methods, and one such method is read. The OData model object has a convenient API method, and that particular method name is read. And this particular read, what it does, it reads the data from this URI annotation, URI convention, and that is slash employee set. So when you write OData model object dot read and then slash employee set, now what happens is this OData model is pointing to the base OData service URL. So to the base OData service URL, it appends this URI convention and it forms the full URL, which is this one. It hits the backend and get this data. It gets the data physically, so you will get both the records. Now what we do, as a result of this particular statement, whatever the data that you will get, we store this data in this JSON model. We store this data in the JSON model. Getting my point? You will store this data in the JSON model. So here, the advantage of this statement is the model.read, when it reads the data from the backend, it automatically we get the data automatically in a JSON format only. We get the data automatically in the JSON format. So that is the advantage. And anyway, our JSON model also need the data in the JSON format. Correct? So we already discussed that this empty bag, the JSON model is an empty bag, and it can hold the data, but the data must be present in a JSON format. So this statement, model.read statement, automatically give you the data in the JSON format only. So now we store this data in this JSON model. And now this items binding, we will change in such a way that, so items equal to, so instead of pointing to the OData model, we will point to the JSON model. So this items binding will be pointing to the JSON model, which is the local memory. Okay, so my EMP model arrow mark slash inside this. So inside this model, the data will be present in an array. So that array name we will give. Okay, so this table is getting the data. The table is getting the data from this local memory, but not directly from the OData service like the previous case. Getting my point? Is the concept clear or not? So here we are first pulling the backend data into the front-end memory. Okay, after that we are pointing the items binding to this local memory instead of directly pointing to the OData service URL. Now you might be wondering, why are you doing this indirect approach? So whereas we are directly getting the data from the backend into this table, why are you doing this indirect approach? First, writing the OData model.read statement, then read the data into a JSON model, and from this memory you are pointing to the table. So what is the need of this? So we'll see what is the need of this by the end of this class. First, let us implement this approach. Okay, right. Now let us talk about this JSON format. So what is the JSON format of the data? Any data that is present within open curly braces and closing curly braces, and in between, if the data is present in a property value format, so that particular data is called as JSON formatted data. Okay, so for example, the property name is empid and the value is, for example, the value is 100001. And again, another property name, the property name is name itself, and let's say the name is Rizwan. And the next one is designation. It is a property name, OData property name, and the value is tech lead. And again, the next one is skill, and it is SAP UI5, for example. So if your data is present in a open curly braces, closing curly braces, and in between, so if you have the data in a property and value. So if this is the data you have, then this particular data is called JSON formatted data. Okay. So this is for single record. So let's say you have multiple records. So in that case, so you will have this structure repeated. For example, 100002 Venki, and let's say software engineer, or let me write developer, so SAP UI5. But this JSON data, when you have multiple records, so these multiple records will be saved in a array. Will be saved in a array. So this is the array starting symbol, and this is the ending symbol. So those people who do not have any programming language background, you need to understand what is an array first. So a array is a collection of similar data items. So you can see that this is one data item of one employee, and this is another data item of another employee. So it is basically the two data items. So multiple data items can be present in a array. Okay. So an array is a collection of similar type data items. All right. So this array will be given some name. For example, so let us give the name results. So normally when you pull the data from backend to the front end, the array name will be given as results. So now let me show this particular JSON formatted data. So you can also see this. So here you are getting the data in the XML format, correct? So what is this? You are getting the data in the XML format. XML format means between the tags, right? Opening tag, closing tag. So within the tags, you are getting the data. But I want to see this data in the JSON format. So how you can do that? By writing question mark dollar format equal to JSON. So you will get this entire data in the JSON format. Now this is the JSON format. By for the developers to see this JSON formatted data, it is little difficult. So what you can do is you can use one online viewer. So just copy this, Control A, Control C, and in the Google just type JSON viewer. Okay, JSON viewer. Now you will get the first link, that is online JSON viewer and formatter. Just click on this. So what this JSON viewer will do, it will make your JSON data to look in a hierarchical, easy to see approach in that format. So what you need to do, you just copy and paste your JSON formatted data here, and then click on the viewer so that you can see how your data is coming from in the JSON format. So you can see that there is an array results. So you got an array. So array name is results, and inside the results, you know that array means it contains the index mechanism. So 0 being the first place and 1 being the second place. Okay, so that's why just go through what is an array. So array follows the indexing mechanism. So 0 means the first location of the array is called 0. 1 means the second location of the array is called 1. So similarly 2, 3, 4, 5 like that. Now in the 0th index you have the first record, and in the index 1 you have the second record. And if you see, the data is present in a property value format. The left hand side you will have all the properties: EMBID, name, designation, skill, email, phone, salary, date of joining, rating, status. And at the right hand side you have all the values. So my dear friends, if you have the data like this, left hand side the properties and the right hand side values, and all of them present within the single braces, so open braces and closing braces if it is a single record, and if it is a multiple records, then they must be present in an array. So this kind of format is called as the JSON format. Got it, guys? Fine. Right. Now let us do this approach. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to remove this OData model binding, or otherwise we'll comment this code and create this table code again. And we will be taking the OData model object, and on this object we use the API method read, and when you use this statement you will get the data in a JSON format. So save the data in this JSON model. So JSON model is a memory, correct? What is JSON model? It's a memory, and this empty bag can hold the JSON data. So it can hold JSON data. So we are already getting the JSON data from backend. So that data we save it here. Okay. So and from this bag, so from this memory, so our table will be pointed through this items binding. So items binding, instead of pointing to the OData model directly, so it will point to the JSON model, so which is the local memory. Okay, fine. So where should I write this code? OData model dot read. So where should I write this code? So you can write this code in the view1 controller. So you can write this code in the view1 controller that is there. Okay, so if you have to write it, you need to write in the onInit function. OnInit is a on initialization. So you want this data to be read automatically by the time your application is initialized, your view is initialized. So you need to write this code in the onInit function. You cannot write this code on submit. You cannot write this code on any other function, because by the time your view open, you want the data on the screen. You want the data on the screen by the time the view is open. So that means on initialization of the view, you want the data. So you will write this code, this OData model dot read statement. You can write this code in the onInit function, or you can also write the same code in the component.js init function. So either place, so even that place, even this place, you can write the code, no problem at all. Clear? Right. So in future, anyway, we will write so much of, we'll write some code in the onInit function of the controller. So I just want to show you how we can write the code in the component.js as well. Okay, right. So step number one, go to manifest.json and create a new JSON model, that is new empty bag, to store our employee data that is coming from backend to the frontend. Okay. So any model will be created in the models section. So this is the model section. Now I'm going to create a new JSON model. So I'm giving the name called EMP model. So I have created a name for the model and I need to tell which type of model it is. So I need to copy. So type equal to sap.ui.model.json.json model. Okay. Yeah. So that's all. Now this is my JSON model. Clear, guys? So we created one new model and the type of this model is sap.ui.model.json.json model. So just like here you have resource model, so similarly this is a JSON model and this is the name of the model. Now what I'm going to do, I will go to component.js, okay, and I need the OData model object because on the OData model object I need to apply the read method. Okay, so that means in the manifest.json, I need to pull this OData model object that was created. So how can I get this OData model object? Let me write get the OData model object. So how to get it? Variable O model equal to this dot get model. See, this means component.js. So what is this? This means current file. So what is the current file here? Component.js. Component.js is the current file. Now on the component.js, I'm saying get model, and inside the get model, I'm not giving any name. The name is empty. So when you say get model without any name, it goes to the manifest.json and checks all the models, and it will give you the model which is having no name. Okay, so you got your OData model object. So similarly, get your JSON model also, because you will be filling this empty bag with the data. So get that JSON model as well. So EMP model equals to this dot get model, but this get model will be having the name EMP model. So this dot get model again, this means component.js, and get model will go to the model section of the manifest.json and it will pull up your EMP model, which is the JSON model. Okay, so this gives the OData model. This gives OData model, but the below line will gives the JSON model. Okay, now on the OData model, we have this read method. So let us apply it. OData model dot read, and inside the read, you need to write the remaining part of the URL, so which is /employee set. Now this particular statement will give you the data in a JSON model. So where to collect the data? After this double quotations where you have written this /employee set, after that, so you need to put a comma and with a curly open braces and closing braces. So within this, the model.read method is provided with a success and error functions. Okay, so let me write the success. Okay, so normally what we do, so we just give a enter here like this. Okay, so that it becomes easy. So normally we give a enter like this here, and then we write the success function. Similarly, we also have an error function where we display an error in case of there is any problem in reading the data. Okay, so we'll see about this later. Don't worry about this. So the model.read syntax is, the syntax of this particular method is, it takes the entity set, and after the entity set there is a comma, and I open curly braces and a closing curly braces here. Okay, so don't get confused. This is the open curly braces, and it automatically shows you which is the closing curly braces for this one. Okay, at line number 44 it is there, and this is the opening round bracket, and you can see it automatically highlight the closing round brackets. Okay, fine. Now within this success method, you will get the entire data in a data parameter. So there is a data parameter and you will get all the data here. And this data will be in a JSON format automatically. So the model.read statement will pull the data from this URL and it automatically give you the data in the JSON format only. Fine. So my JSON data of employees is ready inside the success function as a parameter. Now what I need to do, I just need to store my data EMP model, which is my bag, empty bag. This is my empty bag. Now in this empty bag, I am setting the data, my empty bag dot set data and the data that I got from the backend into this success function. Okay, so I set the data. Right. Now my JSON model is filled with, so it filled with the JSON data. Right. Now let me change this items binding. So I'm going to the view. So where is my view? So you can clearly see that this entire data, that is this data, Winky's data and Rahul's data, so both are present in an array. So the array name is results. And this entire array, let me write down here. So this entire data is present in an array, and this array name is results. This array name is results, and this results is present inside the JSON model. Okay, so I'm going to change this items binding. Let me comment this and copy this. I will paste once again. Now we are going to change our binding from OData model to the JSON model. So I'm going to write the item syntax. Syntax of items binding. So this is the syntax of the items binding in case of OData model, and the syntax of items binding in case of JSON model. So which is items equal to model name. So this is same model name, but this model name will be JSON model name. Arrow mark slash. So here you get the entity set name, but here you will get the array name. Okay, which is array name. Okay. So this is the syntax, and the exact value that we write is our JSON model name is EMP model, and then arrow mark, and the array name is results. Okay, so this is what we need to write here. Let me copy this entire thing and keep it here. So EMP model arrow mark slash results, and in the lower, so in this place also you need to write the model name, which is only model name is enough. So let me keep the model name arrow mark, and again the model name arrow mark. So you don't need to change this OData field names, because when you get the data here, so even this data will have the left hand side, the properties will be same. Okay, the only difference is these are present in the JSON model. So that is the reason we keep this EMP ID name as it is, but we say that boss, these properties are from the JSON model. Okay, so that's all. Let us save and let us refresh. So we'll see if the data is coming or not. So now you can see we are also getting the data using JSON mode. Virtually, there is no difference for the end user. End user really don't know whether this data is coming directly from the data model or you are saving it first into a memory that is JSON model, and then you are pulling it into the table. So end user will not have any idea about this. So this is our second approach of pulling the data from backend to the front end. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how you can check whether really you are getting the data from backend to the front end or not. So these kind of things you can check by using something called debugging. Okay, you can debug your code and you can put some breakpoints and see whether you are really getting the data or not. So what do you mean by debugging? So there are few people who don't know, came from non-coding background. So you can execute each and every line and see what is the outcome of each and every line. So this mechanism is called debugging. Okay. Now I'm going to keep a debug point inside the success function, and I'm going to show you how your data is coming from backend to the front end. Okay. So this is your output window. Now what you need to do, hit F12, hit F12 key from the keyboard. You can just close this window if it opens. That is not required. Clear this console. So this is called console area. There are three tabs here, guys. One is console, second one is sources, and third one is network. These three tabs are very, very important for debugging. In today's class, we are going to debug and see our code. So what is happening in each and every line? So just clear this console. Yeah. Now go to sources, go to your component.js. So you can see all the controllers. So where you have written the code and the component.js, all the JavaScript files will be available here. Now just go down and I want to see what is happening inside the success function. You can also keep the debug point anywhere. So you can keep it here also, but let us keep one debug point in the line number 39. So how to keep the debug point? You just need to click on the line number and you can see some blue color arrow mark has appeared and this is called the debug point. All right. Now refresh your application. Yeah, so I refreshed my application. So when you refresh your application, you know that the component.js get executed. As a result, the debug point will stop. So let us wait for the debug point to trigger. Yeah. So now you can see that the execution has stopped at line number 34. Okay, so you can see it is showing paused in debugger. That means the application running is paused in the debugger. Now there are three icons here. So this is called step-by-step execution. And this is in case in that step there is another function you are calling, then you can go inside that function. This is to come outside that function. Anyway, so we mainly use these two, and this is to continue the execution without the debug point. Now let us click on this. So it has executed this first line. Okay. So it has executed the next line. Okay. So now if I click this, it makes a call to the backend. So this is my network tab where I can see which OData service URL is being called. Okay, let me uh, click on this continue button, resume execution. I click on it, and you can see in the network tab. So let's go to the network tab. In the network tab, there is something called $batch. So here you can clearly see that the OData service URL is being called, and you can see what is the entity set it has been called. So it has called the employee set. So this is the base OData service URL, and in the payload you can see the entity set. So the entity set that has been called is employee set. Anyway, let's come again back to the sources section. Our execution has stopped at line number 39. Now what I'm doing, I want to check whether I'm getting the data inside the success function in this data parameter or not. How can you check? You can place your mouse directly on this like this. When I keep the mouse on the data parameter, I can clearly see that there is a results array, and inside the results array, in the 0th location, I have the Rahul's data, and in the index 1, I have the Venki's data. So that means from the backend, I'm getting the data very clearly. So like this, in the real time, we debug these statements so that we really want to see whether the data is coming from backend to the front end or not. So this is also one way to check your code, and you can so basing on that, you can talk to the backend developer, boss, I'm not getting the data, or accordingly. Right. The alternate way to check is you can copy this variable when you are in this line. You can copy this variable, go to the console area, clear the console, and you can also paste the variable here and hit enter. Now it shows the data inside your variable like this. You can clearly see that in the data that is coming from the backend, there is an array. The array name is results, and in this array follows indexing mechanism, that is 0, 1, 2, 3, like that. In the 0th index, you have the Rahul's data, and in the index 1, you have Vinkit's data. So whatever the data we got, we saved in the Json model, EMP model, so which is this one, EMP model. That's all. And in the view 1, so this is my view 1, we binded our table. Instead of OData model, we are pointing our table to this bag, to the EMP model. EMP model is a JSON model. So that is the reason. So even this items binding execute as it is. When this gets executed, it points to the results array, and it understands that this array has 2 records. So when it has 2 records, the items binding act like a loop. So again, it points to the first record and create the first record. Again, it goes to the array and it finds another record. So loop gets executed for 2 times. So this is how you can also pull the data from backend to the front end. Now the question arises, response, which model to use in the real time? Is it OData model or JSON model? Means the approach 1 or approach 2. And second question is why these two approaches has been given actually. See, if your requirement is you want the backend data directly in the front end, yes, go to the first approach. That is the best approach. Sometimes what happens is the clients will they need some change in the data before it appears on the screen. Okay, I will tell you one such example that I got. The client want an extra column called serial number, and that serial number should show 1, 2, like that. So this serial number data is not present when it is coming from the backend, correct? Do I have that serial number field at all? No, I do not have serial number field at all. I have only this. I do not have any serial number. Okay, maybe we'll start with a simple example. Uh, so anyway, we are going to see this example in tomorrow's class. Uh, Maybe the client wants the name to be prefixed with Mr. Just an example. Okay, so I want Rahul is coming from the back end. Rahul is coming from the back end, and this name Venki is coming from the back end. So let's say the client want Mr. Rahul, Mr. Venki. So basically, if you want the data to be changed before it appears on the UI, you want to do some processing on the data. You want to do some processing on the data, and then after the processing, you want to show the data on the UI. So in these kind of cases, you will go with the JSON model. For example, uh, let's say this is employees, but let's say there is a product, there is a products table, and you are showing all the products, and each product has a price. At the bottom, you want to show the total price of all the products, total sum. Product 1 is 1 rupee, product 2 is 2 rupees, product 3 is 3 rupees. Okay, now what is the total sum of products? 1 plus 2 plus 3, which is nothing but 6. So let's say the client want to show this 6 rupees at the top or somewhere. That means what do you need to do? You need to sum up each product value. First product price is 1, so 1 plus second product price is 2 plus 2, and then third product price is 3, so plus 3. So 1 plus 2 plus 3 is 6, so you need to display it somewhere. So the bottom line here is whenever you want to do some processing on the data, that is what you need to take in your mind, processing. Whenever you want to do some processing on the data, after the processing only, you want to display the data on the UI. So if this is your requirement, you can go for the JSON model. Okay, not all the processing situations needs the JSON model, but few processing uh, situations so definitely need the JSON model. Okay, so in tomorrow's class we'll take an example, and that is the serial number, which is one of the very common requirement in the real time. So how to add a serial number column and then display the data in this table. So that's all for today. I hope you understand the second approach of pulling the data from backend to the front end using the combination of OData model, uh, API method read, and the JSON model. So here we are not just pulling the data using JSON model, guys. JSON model does not have any capacity to call the OData service. Okay, JSON model is just a memory in the front end. We are still calling the OData service URL using OData model only, because OData model only has the capacity to call the OData service. Okay, so we get the data using OData model and saved this data inside this empty bag called JSON model, and we are pointing our table to this JSON model instead of the OData model. So because once you have this data here, you can do some processing on the data. So you can do some processing on the data, and this data is supplied to the table. This data is supplied to the table, not the actual data. Okay, so it is something like you went to a hotel, you ordered some dosa. Okay, so he can't give the entire, the batter, the dosa batter directly onto your table. So he need to do some processing, right? So he will keep it on that. He take the batter and he make it dosa, and then he will serve you onto your table. So this is called processing. All right, guys. If you have any questions, you can ask me. Otherwise, you can leave for today.
Hi, sir Rahul. Hello, I'm audible.
Yeah.
Rizwan sir, we have written code in component.json file, right? So, if I
Hmm.
wanted to write it in controller.js, v1 controller,
Yeah,
so do we
you can
also need
write it.
to display, yeah, do we also define that variables also in the same or only the function?
Variables also. Only the function means we'll copy that 4 lines of code and we paste it here.
Okay. Can you go to, I'm asking about this variable O model and where EM.
That's
So,
all.
everything we need to do. Okay.
Yeah, obviously.
But if I wanted to reuse this data in other views also, then we maybe write in
That's why
component.js,
we
right?
need to keep that in the component.js.
Component. Okay, okay, got it.
That's why I kept in
Thanks.
the component.js. Okay, so we'll segregate it. Will what we do? We simply separate this into a separate function so that anybody can call this method if required. Okay, so we'll do that in tomorrow's
Okay,
class.
sure.
Okay, instead
Thank you.
of directly writing the code here, what we do, we keep this code in a separate function here itself, and we call that function from the init function. Okay, and similarly, any
Okay,
other controller also want to call this, so they can call this by using the method name. Okay,
okay,
okay. So fine, guys. We'll meet in tomorrow's class with an example of processing the data. Have a nice day. Bye bye.